Hi there, Nerd Impact podcast followers. This is Aidan speaking, and welcome to the first of hopefully many minisodes of the Nerd Impact podcast. So today, I'm looking at a book that I've recently just finished reading. It was absolutely fantastic, and that's what's kind of spawned the idea of doing minisodes, is looking at maybe albums, books, games, or something that we've watched along the week or the last 2 or 3 weeks, and would like to kind of scream and shout about it. This book is absolutely one that I want to scream and shout about. So I'll dive into some of the details and then talk a bit about how I felt about the book. So this book is Billy Summers by the one and only Stephen King. It was released only in August this year, so it's not even a month old yet. So for hardback fans or people who like to get first editions, you probably still have a chance of getting it. Um, so a little bit about the writer. I mean, let's be honest, most people know who Stephen King is. He's quite synonymous with the books and films such as It, Pet Sematary, and Misery. Um, Personally, I have other favourites. The first book I ever read was Gerald's Game, which is by Stephen King. It got me into the world of horror, mystery, and fantasy, and I kind of carried on from there. So I've been reading his books for the past 6 years or so. No, tell a lie, 10 years. Um, yeah, going back to Billy Summers, before we go into spoiler territory, we will have a segment where I just talk about the book itself without delving into too much. But the synopsis of the book is essentially Billy is a ex-veteran of the Iraq War, who is now a contracted hitman. He is hired to do one last hit, which he takes on to get payment of, I think it's $1.5 million. He is quite cautious about doing it. He has the whole awareness of the tropes of the last job and how things could go wrong, and it's too good to be true. And that very much plays into his psyche and the character, which I think is written perfectly. It's also very meta, which I'm a huge fan of. Um, you know, been very self-aware that last job can always end badly, and he's looking out for anything that can make this job go tits up, and it's brilliant. It's really well wrote. Um, that is one thing that about this book that I love personally is the characters. Stephen King is normally very good with characters, and as most fans know, you aren't really supposed to get too invested in characters with Stephen King because he will blindside you and kill you off left, right, and centre. That is no spoilers for this one. I'm just saying if you get into Stephen King or if you know Stephen King quite well, you will know that characters get took out of the pages within minutes, or they drag it out and then they kill them without you even recognizing what's going on. So yeah, have fun with that, reading other books of his. Um, so the whole kind of synopsis of this book, as I explained, is very thriller and spy based. I absolutely loved it. I like the setup when he's preparing for the hit. The hit isn't taking out straight away; it's actually built up to, which is really nice. It really gets into the mindset of Billy. He's a very fascinating character, hence the investment. He has this thing where he calls his dumb self. So when he's talking to the contractors or people who are helping him set up the hit, he acts very thick. He acts like he was literally just you know, a war veteran who just used to be trigger happy, but he's not. He's a very intellectual person, and he keeps that to himself. So when this hit has taken place, he has a way to get out. Um, the writing itself is perfect. I really enjoy Stephen King, as I said, and I will keep saying that. He very much uses this book as he does in quite a few books, where the character is also writing a book, so it's a book within a book. Um, Billy writes about his time in the Iraqi war and how he kind of led him up to where he is now, which I think is really interesting, and it kind of goes in line with what's happening in the present day. I find that really interesting. I like when stories can kind of split off between two different stories, but kind of meet back together down the line. So, with that said, I would like to have a slight spoiler conversation with you viewers, listeners. So if you do not want to hear that, I thank you for coming into this quick video and please join us for next time. If you are looking to come back into the spoiler warning, you have been warned and here we go. So I'm not going to touch on too much. I don't want to give away the whole plot, but there's two really big references and I almost feel like was based off this book was Leon and Logan. If you don't know these, they are two films. Leon Professional is by Luke Belson, I think it is, and it is about a hitman who befriends a small girl after her family has died, and he trains her to become a hitman. And then on the other side, you have the famous Logan, which is Hugh Jackman's last portrayal of Wolverine up to this point, um, in which, he finds out he has a clone daughter and they go on a journey to try and get her free. So there's a few things there. And basically, how that links to Billy Summers is that during the post-hit time, he finds a young girl who is dumped in the middle of the street. I won't go into too much reason why, but basically, yeah, he befriends this female, and that then becomes the next part of the story leading towards the third act. I thought it was brilliant, and as soon as I started reading this and seeing the friendship gathered, I was like, yep, that's definitely Leon, definitely Logan, probably other influences involved, but yeah, absolutely loved it. Wish there was more to it. Wish there would be a sequel, but who knows? Stephen King doesn't always follow through with sequels, or he likes to leave things open. I won't touch on the end, so I haven't really given much away. But all I would suggest for you guys is that you absolutely go and buy this book, give it a read. If you're into spy thrillers, you're into things like Leon and Logan, I really do think you should give it a listen. And thank you for listening to our first of hopefully many minisodes.